First strike. The bridge of the UES Defiant hummed with activity as Captain Alina Reyes studied the holographic display of the uncharted system. A veteran of Earth's interstellar fleet with 15 years of deep space exploration under her belt, Reyes had encountered many strange phenomena, but nothing like the energy signatures emanating from the fourth planet orbiting this yellow star. Analysis, Commander Chen, Reyes asked, her dark eyes never leaving the display. Commander Mai Chen, Chief Science Officer, adjusted her spectacles and swiped through multiple data screens. Definitely artificial, Captain. The energy pattern is too regular to be natural. But it doesn't match any known technology in our database. Lieutenant Marcus Jackson, Tactical Officer, leaned forward at his station. Could be a new civilization. Or a trap. Either way, we're obligated to investigate, Rice said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. The Defiant had been commissioned specifically for this purpose, to venture beyond Earth's colonial boundaries and make contact with other spacefaring species. Humanity had expanded to 37 star systems over the past century, but had yet to encounter another intelligent race capable of interstellar travel. Prepare a first contact package, Rise ordered. Standard protocols. And alert Major Karim to ready a landing team. As the Defiant approached the fourth planet, the structures on the surface became clearer. Massive geometric formations sprawled across the northern hemisphere, too precise to be anything but artificial. The ship's sensors detected unusual radiation signatures and complex energy fields surrounding the structures. Captain, Communications Officer Zora Singh called out, "We're receiving a transmission. Audio only." "Let's hear it," Rice said, straightening in her chair. The sound that filled the bridge was unlike anything the crew had heard before, a series of clicks, whistles, and low harmonic tones that seemed to follow a pattern but defied immediate analysis. "Send our first contact package," Rise ordered. "All frequencies." The package contained mathematical sequences, simple visual representations of humans, the solar system, and basic scientific principles, humanity's standard greeting to the cosmos. The response came almost immediately. The alien transmission ceased. They'd gone silent, Singh reported, frowning at her console. Before Rice could respond, the tactical alert blared. Jackson's fingers raced across his console. Energy spike detected. Multiple sources from the surface. "Shields up," Rice commanded. Evasive maneuvers. The Defiant banked hard as beams of brilliant purple energy lanced through space where the ship had been moments before. The bridge crew held tight as the inertial compensators struggled to keep up with the sudden change in direction. "Return fire," Jackson asked, his hands hovering over the weapon's controls. "Negative," Rise replied firmly. "This could still be a misunderstanding. Continue evasive patterns and maintain defensive posture only." Another energy beam struck the Defiant's port side, sending tremors throughout the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Direct hit," Engineering Officer Kavita Patel reported. "Shields at 68%. Minor damage to the outer hull." The ship rocked again as two more beams found their mark. "Shields at 42%. Patel updated, her voice tense but controlled. "We can't take much more of this, Captain." Rice made her decision. Target their energy weapon emplacements. Minimal yield, precision strikes only. The Defiant's defense batteries responded, sending pulses of concentrated energy toward the surface installations. The shots connected, but scanners showed minimal damage to the alien structures. "Our weapons are barely affecting their defenses," Jackson reported grimly. A massive energy surge registered on the sensors. Shen's eyes widened as she studied the readings. "Captain, they're powering up something much bigger. Based on these energy readings, it could tear through our shields in a single hit." "Plot a jump trajectory out of the system," Reyes ordered. "We need to report this encounter." "Captain," Singh interrupted, "I'm detecting multiple signals approaching from the outer system. At least 7 vessels. Configuration unknown." Reyes felt a chill run down her spine. They were about to be outnumbered and outgunned in unfamiliar territory. Launch countermeasures and prepare to jump on my mark. The Defiant released a cloud of specialized drones, each emitting signals designed to confuse enemy targeting systems. As the alien vessels adjusted to this new threat, Reyes saw their opportunity. Mark. The Defiant's faster-than-light drive engaged, creating a controlled rift in space-time. The stars on the view screen blurred, and the ship lurched as it tore free from normal space. The last sensor readings showed the alien vessels converging on their previous position, reinforcements that would have overwhelmed them completely. As the Defiant settled into FTL travel, Reyes surveyed the damage reports flowing into her console. The ship had survived, but the encounter raised disturbing questions. Whatever species they had encountered, their first instinct had been to attack rather than communicate. "Commander Chen, I want all sensor data from the encounter analyzed immediately," she ordered. "We need to understand what we're dealing with." Chen nodded, her expression grim. "I've never seen technology like theirs. The energy signatures, the structural configurations, it's beyond anything in our databases." Major Samir Karim, head of the ship's security detachment, approached with his tablet. "Captain, there's something else you should see." During the attack, our deep scan systems captured these images from the planet's surface. The images showed vast facilities beneath the geometric structures, and within them, unmistakable signs of mining operations on a massive scale. More disturbing were the containment areas holding what appeared to be biological specimens, some of which bore a striking resemblance to known sentient species from Earth's exploration records. "They're collectors," Chen whispered, the implications dawning on her. "No," Karim corrected, his face hardening. "They're hunters." 3 days later, the Defiant limped into Proxima Station, the nearest human outpost. As Rice prepared her report for Earth Command, she knew the encounter would change humanity's view of the cosmos forever. Space wasn't empty. It contained at least one hostile species with technology that surpassed their own. But what troubled her most was a pattern Chen had discovered in the alien transmissions. They contained fragments that matched communications from 3 human colony worlds, worlds that had gone mysteriously silent in the past year. Worlds that Earth Command had assumed were experiencing communication equipment failures. The truth might be far worse. Humanity wasn't just encountering a new species. They might be facing an enemy that had already begun moving against them. Admiral Helena Wang, commander of Earth's Interstellar Defense Force, called an emergency session within hours of receiving the Defiant's report. Representatives from all 37 human colonies attended virtually, their holographic images filling the secure conference room at Earth Command headquarters. The species Captain Rice encountered has been designated as the Vextari, Admiral Wang announced, her weathered face grave beneath her silver hair. Based on the evidence gathered by the Defiant and subsequent analysis, we believe they are responsible for the silence from Tau Ceti, Epsilon Eridani, and Procyon colonies. The revelation sent a wave of shock through the assembled representatives. Those 3 colonies represented over 12 million human lives. We dispatched stealth reconnaissance drones to all 3 systems immediately after receiving the Defiant's data, Wang continued. The images are conclusive. The main display shifted to show orbital photographs of the colony worlds. What had once been thriving settlements were now scarred landscapes. Massive excavations penetrated deep into the planet's crusts, and orbital structures of Vextari design hovered above each world. They're not just mining the planets, Dr. Omar Santos, head of xenobiology, explained. Our analysis indicates they're harvesting biological samples from every ecosystem, with particular focus on sentient species. "And the colonists?" asked the representative from Alpha Centauri, her voice barely stable. Admiral Wang hesitated. "We've detected containment facilities similar to those found in Captain Ray's scans. Based on energy signatures and life support systems, we believe many colonists may still be alive. But for what purpose, we can only speculate. The conference room erupted in voices, some calling for immediate military action, others for more reconnaissance, and a few suggesting diplomatic attempts despite the initial hostility. Admiral Wang raised her hand for silence. Make no mistake, this is the greatest threat humanity has faced since leaving Earth. The Vexteri possess technology that exceeds our current capabilities, and they've already demonstrated their intentions toward us. But they've also revealed vulnerabilities. She nodded to Captain Reyes, who had been standing quietly at the side of the room. Reyes stepped forward, the weight of her recent encounter evident in the shadows under her eyes. During our engagement with the Vexteri, we observed several tactical anomalies. Reyes began. Their weapons systems, while powerful, followed predictable targeting algorithms. Their ships moved in formation patterns that suggested a preference for overwhelming force rather than adaptability. Most importantly, when we deployed our countermeasures, their response time lagged by approximately 3.8 seconds, suggesting a deliberative rather than intuitive decision-making process. You're saying they're powerful but predictable, General Ortiz of the Marine Expeditionary Force summarized. Exactly, Reyes confirmed. And predictability can be exploited. Admiral Wang reclaimed the floor. Earth Command has authorized Operation Spearhead, a direct counterstrike against Vexteri forces. Our objectives are clear. Confirm the fate of our colonists, assess Vexteri capabilities and intentions, and demonstrate that humanity will not be harvested without consequence. The plan that unfolded over the next hours was unlike anything Earth Fleet had previously conceived. Traditional military doctrine emphasized overwhelming force projection, but against the technologically superior Vexteri, such tactics would lead to disaster. Instead, Operation Spearhead would rely on stealth, deception, and asymmetric warfare. The strike force would consist of 60 vessels, a mix of retrofitted civilian ships and military craft modified to mask their signatures. They would approach using a series of complex FTL jumps, deliberately avoiding standard navigation routes. Most controversial was the core of the plan, a tactical infiltration of Vexteri territory to plant a network of quantum observation posts, technology that could monitor Vexteri communications and movements without detection. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Wang pulled Captain Reyes aside. "I'm giving you command of the Artemis Battle Group," she said without preamble. "The Defiant will be your flagship once repairs are complete." Reyes blinked in surprise. The Artemis Group consisted of 12 advanced warships, far more responsibility than her previous exploratory command. "With respect, Admiral, there are more experienced combat commanders available." Wang's expression remained firm. "You've encountered them, Melina. You've seen how they think, how they fight. That experience is more valuable than a dozen tactical simulations." As Reyes left the conference room, she felt the weight of not just her new command, but of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. The next encounter with the Vexteri would determine whether humanity would stand among the stars or become just another specimen in an alien collection. Counterstrike. 2 weeks after the emergency summit, Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge of the newly repaired and upgraded UES Defiant. The ship had been retrofitted with experimental stealth systems, its heat signature reduced to near background levels, and its hull coated with materials designed to absorb rather than reflect scanning beams. Around the Defiant, 11 other vessels of various configurations maintained formation at the edge of the Ta-CD system, where they had first encountered the Vexteri. Long-range scans showed at least 15 alien vessels in orbit around the fourth planet, with massive structures on the surface that hadn't been there during their first visit. "They're expanding rapidly," Commander Chen observed, studying the sensor readings. "Those processing facilities have nearly doubled in size since our last visit." "Then we'd better move faster," Reyes replied. She opened a channel to the fleet. "All vessels, commence Operation Spearhead. Phase 1 begins now." Across the fleet, specialized drones were launched, each programmed to emit signals mimicking commercial transport vessels far from their actual locations, As the Vexteri detected these false signatures, the real fleet began their careful approach, using the system's asteroid belt as cover. Reyes watched the tactical display with growing tension. The Vexteri were responding to the drone decoys exactly as predicted, dispatching smaller vessels to investigate. The pattern confirmed her theory. They were methodical but lacked intuitive suspicion. "Infiltration team ready," Captain Major Karim reported. He had volunteered to lead the most dangerous aspect of the mission, ordering a Vexteri vessel to plant observation devices and gather intelligence. Reyes met his gaze. "Remember, this is intelligence gathering only. No heroics." Karim nodded, though the determined set of his jaw suggested he was prepared for whatever might come. His team of 4 specialists had trained intensively for this mission, using simulations based on the limited sensor data from their first encounter. The infiltration craft, little more than a stealth-equipped pod with minimal life support, detached from the Defiant's underside. Using short, controlled bursts from its maneuvering thrusters, it drifted toward the nearest Vexteri vessel, appearing on sensors as nothing more than another piece of space debris. Hours passed in tense silence as the fleet maintained position and the infiltration team approached their target. Reyes forced herself to focus on the broader tactical situation, but her thoughts kept returning to Karim and his team. "Captain," Singh called suddenly, "we're receiving a transmission from the infiltration team. Audio only." "Put it through," Reyes ordered. Karim's voice came through, hushed but clear. "Defiant, this is Infiltration 1. We've successfully attached to the Vexteri vessel and gained entry through what appears to be a maintenance access port. The interior environment is breathable but uncomfortably warm and humid. Gravity approximately 1.3 Earth standard. Any contact with Vexteri personnel?" Reyes asked. "Negative. This section appears to be automated. We're proceeding toward what our scans indicate is a central processing hub." There was a pause. Then Karim continued, his voice tense. "Captain, you need to see this. Transmitting visual feed now." The main view screen shifted to show footage from Karim's helmet camera. The team had entered a vast chamber filled with transparent cylindrical containers. Each container held what appeared to be a humanoid figure suspended in a glowing liquid. "Arthos." Reyes couldn't finish the question. "The colonists," Karim confirmed grimly. "Or some of them. There are thousands of these containers in this chamber alone, and our scans suggest multiple similar chambers throughout the vessel." Chen stepped closer to the screen, her face pale. "They're in some kind of suspended animation. Look at the neural interfaces connected to their cerebral cortexes. They're harvesting something from them." "Not just something," Karim said. "Based on these displays, they're extracting neural patterns, consciousness itself. The Vexteri aren't just mining the planets, they're mining human minds." The revelation sent a wave of horror through the bridge. Whatever they had expected to discover, this went beyond their darkest speculations. "There's more," Karim continued. "We've identified what appears to be their central communication system. It's unlike anything we've seen, a crystalline structure that seems to process and transmit information without electronic components as we understand them." "Can you place the observation devices?" Reyes asked. "Affirmative. We're deploying them now." "But Captain, I'm also downloading their navigational data. It contains coordinates for dozens of systems, potential targets for future harvesting operations." Reyes's blood ran cold. "How many are human colonies?" There was a long pause before Karim answered. "All of them, Captain. Every system in their database corresponds to a human colony or outpost. They're systematically targeting us, and based on the sequence data, they plan to hit New Terra next, our largest off-Earth colony with a population of over 5 million. The implications were clear. This wasn't random aggression. It was a calculated campaign of harvesting. The Vexteri had identified humanity as a resource, and they were methodically working their way through human space. "Major, complete your mission and get out of there," Reyes ordered, her mind already racing through the strategic implications. We need to adjust our plans. While the infiltration team worked to exfiltrate safely, Reyes called an emergency meeting with her command staff. The holographic display in the Defiant's tactical room showed the downloaded Vexteri navigational data, with human colonies highlighted in red, 37 points of light, each representing millions of lives. We need to understand what they're doing with the neural patterns they're harvesting, Chen said, examining the biological data Karim had transmitted. Based on these readings, they're not just studying human consciousness. They're feeding on it somehow. Lieutenant Jackson shook his head in disbelief. How do you feed on consciousness? The Vexteri appear to experience reality differently than we do, Chen explained. Their neural structure, based on what little we can deduce from their technology, suggests they perceive thoughts, emotions, and memories as a form of energy. Energy they can absorb and utilize. So we're not just food, Dr. Eliza Okafor, the ship's medical officer, concluded grimly. We're a drug. Ray studied the tactical display, her mind working through the implications. The original plan was to gather intelligence and demonstrate resistance, but with New Terra in immediate danger, we need to do more. We need to stop them here. With respect, Captain, Jackson cautioned, we're still outgunned. Even with our full fleet, we can't match their firepower. No, Rice agreed, but we may not need to. Commander Chen, you mentioned their neural structure perceives consciousness as energy. What if we created a feedback loop? Something that would overwhelm their perception systems. Chen's eyes widened as she caught on to Reyes' thinking. Like an informational flashbang. If we could generate a concentrated burst of conflicting neural patterns, could we use the quantum communication network? Reyes asked. The observation devices Major Karim planted are designed to intercept and transmit information. Theoretically, yes, Chen replied, growing excited. We could reverse the flow, bombard their systems with randomized human thought patterns, emotions, memories, sensory data, all jumbled together. For a species that feeds on ordered consciousness, Dr. Okafor added, it would be like sensory overload. Over the next few hours, as the infiltration team made their way back to the Defiant, a new plan took shape. Operation Spearhead would transform from a reconnaissance mission into a direct strike, but not with conventional weapons. The fleet would create a distraction, drawing Vexteri attention while the Defiant positioned itself to deploy what they were now calling cognitive disruption burst, a massive upload of chaotic human neural patterns into the Vexteri communication network. When Major Karim's team returned safely, they brought with them crucial information about Vexteri internal systems and vulnerability points. More disturbing, they also carried visual confirmation of the fate of the human colonists. Thousands preserved in suspension, their minds being slowly drained to feed the Vexteri's strange hunger. As the human fleet prepared for their counterstrike, Rise addressed her crew and, via quantum link, the commanders of the other vessels. What we face today is unlike any enemy humanity has encountered, she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. The Vexteri see us not as rivals, not even as threats, but as resources to be harvested. They believe they have found in us a perfect source of sustenance, ordered minds that generate the patterns they crave. She paused, looking at the determined faces around her. But they've made a critical miscalculation. The human mind isn't just ordered. It's chaotic, creative, adaptive. We don't just think in patterns. We break them. We reshape them. We imagine. And today we'll show them exactly what human imagination can do when threatened. The fleet moved into position, deploying in a scattered formation that forced the Vexteri to divide their attention. As predicted, the alien vessels responded with precise but predictable maneuvers, dispatching ships to intercept each perceived threat in a methodical pattern. The Defiant, using its enhanced stealth systems and the cover provided by the rest of the fleet, slipped closer to the main Vexteri command vessel. On board, a specialized system had been hastily constructed from the ship's quantum communication array, medical neural scanners, and parts salvaged from the Vexteri technology that Karim's team had brought back. The device was crude but functional, capable of generating a massive burst of human neural patterns drawn from volunteer crew members. Emotions ranging from joy to fear, memories of childhood and combat, sensory experiences from taste to pain, all jumbled together in a chaotic stream that defied the orderly patterns the Vexteri sought to harvest. "We're in position," Jackson reported as the Defiant settled into a stable orbit just outside the Vexteri sensor range. Cognitive disruption burst ready to deploy. Reyes took a deep breath. "Initiate the burst." For the human crew, nothing visible happened. But across the Vexteri fleet, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The alien vessels began to move erratically, their formerly precise formations dissolving into chaos. Several smaller craft collided, while others fired weapons seemingly at random into empty space. "It's working," Chen reported, monitoring the sensor readings. "Their communications network is overloaded. The neural patterns are propagating through their entire system." In the midst of the confusion, the human fleet pressed their advantage, targeting key Vexteri weapon emplacements and propulsion systems. Without their coordinated defense, the technologically superior aliens found themselves vulnerable to the smaller but more adaptive human forces. As the battle turned in humanity's favor, Reyes noticed something unexpected in the sensor readings from the planet's surface. The massive Vexteri structures were changing, reconfiguring themselves in patterns that suggested internal conflict. "Captain," Singh called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's different from previous Vexteri communications, more structured, almost like they're trying to adapt to our language parameters." "On screen," Reyes ordered. The message that appeared was a strange hybrid of Vexteri symbols and human linguistic patterns, clearly an attempt at communication rather than the threatening displays they had encountered before. Chen studied the message, her brow furrowed in concentration. I think they're surrendering, Captain. But more than that, they're fracturing. Our disruption didn't just overwhelm their systems, it created division among them. As the human fleet secured orbit around the planet, more communications came from the surface. Through Chen's increasingly accurate translations, a startling truth emerged. The Vexteri weren't a unified species, but a collective consciousness. Individual entities linked through the neural network that Karim's team had disrupted. The chaotic human thought patterns had broken their previously homogeneous connection, allowing individual Vexteri to experience separate identities for the first time. Some embraced this newfound individuality, while others fought to restore the collective. 3 days later, as Earth Command representatives arrived to formalize the unexpected ceasefire, Captain Reyes stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as the first diplomatic shuttle departed for the planet's surface. The mission had transformed from a desperate defense into an unprecedented opportunity. The chance to negotiate with a faction of Vexteri, who, having tasted individual consciousness through the disruption burst, now sought to understand rather than consume humanity. "Do you think it will work?" Commander Chen asked, standing beside her. "Peace with a species that was harvesting us just days ago." Reyes considered the question carefully. "I think we showed them something they never expected. That human consciousness isn't just food. It's transformative. We didn't just defeat them. We changed them." As the shuttle disappeared into the planet's atmosphere, Reyes reflected on the strange turn of events. Humanity had ventured into space seeking other intelligent life, expecting either empty silence or enlightened peers. Instead, they had found predators. And then, unexpectedly, potential allies born from those same predators. The stars suddenly seemed fuller, more complex, and infinitely more dangerous than they had before. But humanity had proven itself equal to that danger, not just through force of arms, but through the very consciousness that made them human. The adventure among the stars was just beginning, and whatever waited in the vast darkness between worlds, humanity would face it, adaptable, unpredictable, and indomitable.